Like, oh, we're starting. Oh my gosh. Okay. So sorry. I thought I was going to have a moment to compose myself. Good morning. I'm Suzanne. I'm a horticulturist here at Rogers Gardens, and welcome to our Tuesday Live. We do this every Tuesday and every Thursday and sometimes on Saturdays. Today we're going to have a super exciting conversation about how to efficiently water plants to maintain a thriving garden. Now, don't go away yet. Just please, I promise. I'm going to try and make it as fun and as informative as I can. Right now, my distraction for you is this beautiful bird and butterfly garden, so maybe we'll get some hummingbird action, some butterfly action, which will help with my a little bit drier content this week. Drier, see, that's a pun. That's part of the fun that we're going for. Okay, so how to efficiently water your garden. Right now, everybody's talking about weather. We're talking about heat, we're talking about water, and we're talking about restrictions. And it's kind of on the mind of everyone right now. In Southern California, of course, we have our water restrictions. Each city, each county is different, so we're not going to get too terribly specific on this. I'm just going to try and show you how to do this a little bit better, regardless of what's going on. And if you've heard me say it once, you've probably heard me say it a million times. The motto, the mantra that we're going to be working for is water deeply, less often. As long as you remember that in low water times, in summertime, in wintertime, it doesn't matter. This is always how you should water your garden, not just during these times right now. Most people have a tendency to overwater their gardens. Most of the problems that we see have to do with overwatering, so you care too much. So I'm going to ask you to just care about yourself a little bit more, your plants maybe a little bit less, so that you can water them efficiently. And so why should we do this? Well, because it's the best way. That's the number one reason. But also, plants do so much better when you water deeply, less often. And the reason for this is because if you're picturing a giant, mighty oak, it's very easy to imagine, but you know it has a huge taproot, it goes down, and as it's getting established, water comes in, it builds more and more roots, and the roots will spread and they get bigger, and the more roots a plant has, the better able it is to take in water, take in nutrients, and become a stronger plant. So if you are watering very surface-like with your sprinklers or even your drip lines or even hand watering, if you're only watering those first few inches of soil, those roots can't grow down. We're going to talk about grass in a little while, because grass is the exact same thing. It's just a shorter plant, but it still needs to have deep roots. So when the roots go down, of course, the healthier they are, the more roots they'll produce. Lower in the soil, it's cooler. So it actually helps keep the plant cooler during heat waves and things like that, hot weather. So having the roots go down is so beneficial in so many different ways. So more roots, cooler situation. A lot of plants, I've talked before about avocado trees and how they need cool roots in order to be a really good tree, but most plants benefit from having cooler roots. So that's another good reason. And then also, if you think about when it's hot out, and I know it's really it's one of those mixed blessings here down at the coast. We haven't seen the sun for a couple of days, which is, I'm so sorry, it's the truth. It's only going to get up to like 75 degrees here today. But still, the sun does come out in the afternoon. And when the sun comes out, whether it's here or inland or wherever you live, that sun can bake and dry out the soil so quickly. Just that top part, depending on how long it is in between watering and how hot the day is. But you think about if your roots are sitting up there at the top of the soil, the sun can bake them dry really quickly, and that is how your plants will fail during a heat wave. You know the heat wave's coming, hydrate them ahead of time, just like you're out walking around, you want to hydrate before you're in the sun. So these are just, kind of the reasons why you want to water deeply less often. Sarah will say, water low and slow, because you do not want to water the leaves of a plant. It rarely helps hydrate them that way. Sometimes you can use a fertilizer on them, but for the most part, do not get water on the leaves of your plant because it can spread disease or powdery mildew or things like that. So water deeply, less often. The what? How do we do this? How do we water deeply less often? Depends on what your situation is. And if you have sprinklers, there's an easy way to do this. If you have drip lines, there's an easy way. If you hand water, there's an easy way to do this. And if you haven't been watering this way, I'm going to tell you it's going to take a little time to get your soil used to it, to cultivate it so that it learns to love water, to absorb the water, because a lot of times some of us will water and the water just runs off because it's just not ready for it. So one thing you can do, again, it's like I feel like a broken record sometimes and I feel really bad, but these are the things that are really important. Mulch. Mulch is going to help hold water in. So if, when you're starting your whole watering program, get that mulch on there, 2 to 3 inches. Don't let it touch the stems of the plant. Just kind of push it an inch or so away from the stem of the plant. And then when you water, it's going to hold it there. And it's also going to evaporate less quickly. So that's kind of like the first step. You also want to check your irrigation system. So if you don't know how to use your irrigation system, that's okay. Invite a friend over, figure it out online. There are instructions for everything. You can find out how to do it. It's actually very, very simple once you kind of it's just like using your phone. In the beginning, it seems a little intimidating. Then you're a pro at it, right? So irrigation systems are fairly straightforward. If you want to learn how to program it, you're going to turn it on, let it go until it starts running off, and turn it off. And you're going to keep doing this until your soil is saturated down at least 6 inches. If you can do it a little bit more, that would be great. But become friends with your irrigation system, or have your gardener do it, or have a friend come over, or a kid, because they know how to do everything. Just learn to work that so that you can water just maybe once or twice a week. I'm saying once only because some cities have once a week restrictions, but learn how to water deeply. And whatever it takes, whether you have to cycle it through like 5 or 6 times to get that depth, that's great. If you have a drip system, you're going to do the exact same thing. Just check on that drip system, at least once a year to make sure that the hoses aren't clogged, to make sure that they're emitting properly, that they haven't come disconnected from, the other parts. Just, water efficiently. And then if you're watering by hand, take it slow. Relax. This is your meditation time. The slower you water, the better you're going to water. So whether it's a pot, you're going to water it super slowly. If you want, come back a couple of times. Just learn to enjoy the slow meditative process that is watering. And then if you are a hand waterer, or if you're not really into this whole watering program, get a soaker hose. We have 2 different kinds of soaker hoses here. They're so awesome. This one's really good, obviously, because you can just crumple it all up and drag it all over your garden. But when you put a soaker hose on and just leave it there for a while, it does all the work for you. It really helps saturate the soil. And so, for example, if you were going to plant things and your soil is hard as a rock, soaker hose is great. It's good just to have in your garden kit so that you can use it like this, but also during watering times like this, using your soaker hose is super efficient. These here are, it's a little soaker hose, not quite as long, not quite as easy to drag around, but really, really good stuff. Another thing that we have here, and this is really neat, and there are less beefy examples of this, but this is a thing that can turn your hose on and off. So a lot of cities have restrictions on letting your hose just run. As long as you have one of these on the end, like if you're washing your car or something like that, if you have this on there, it makes it a lot easier. And I know it's silly, but it's a great little tool, and it really feels good. It's solid brass. It's really fun. And the best friend for watering is one of these watering wands, because you can reach really far. You can get over there. It makes it much more leisurely. You can turn it on and off from the handle here. But it does, if you have the right tools, any job is a lot easier. And, looking like a really cool gardener in your hat and your watering wand, and maybe you have some boots going or something. It's really fun. It's really good. And once you get into that rhythm of it, it's really meditative, and you can really solve a lot of the world's problems and your own in your head while you're watering very, very slowly. So that's my last kind of Zen reference for today. So again, sometimes it'll take a little bit of time to get your soil acclimated to this new watering regime. So if you're changing your irrigation to do it, check back in a month. Make sure that it still needs the exact same thing. A lot of times people will say, well, I've had this plant for 15 years and it's always done great, but maybe they haven't adjusted their watering to the seasons, or to the fact that it's actually getting a little bit hotter each year. So plants will slowly begin to suffer, especially trees. So just keep in mind that each year is different, each plant is different, each garden is different, each city is different. Just make it work for you, and that would be, the best thing for your garden. One of the things to really help your garden be as strong as it can be is to water your trees. That should probably be your biggest priority. When you're watering, start with your trees. Most of them are so established, you think, oh, this tree has been here for 50 years or something. Water it first, because you don't want to have to wait 50 years for another beautiful tree. Trees are very, very hard to replace. And so priorities, trees. Trees provide shade. Trees provide shelter, and they're just so beneficial to your garden, to you, to your house, to your heating costs, to your cooling costs. Save those trees. Water them first, even if it's with a hose, just, slowly soaking it in once a week if you can. Lawns. Lawns are a funny thing. Of course, we want you to get rid of your lawns, but, if you're using it, great. But again, water deeply. Water deeply. Even your little lawn that's this tall, if you have roots that go down this far, it's going to do a lot better during a heat wave than if its roots only go down this far. It just, makes sense. But so try and water your lawn as deeply as possible, as infrequently as possible, because also constantly moist or wet soil can spread diseases. It can spread funguses. So any problem that your garden that your grass might be having consistently moist soil is not a good thing for it. You'll get moss and all sorts of other stuff. So that's just one thing for your lawns. And for your bedding colors, if you have plants that require a lot of water, certain bedding flowers need that consistent moisture. Again, try and water them as deeply as possible so that they will survive. Or maybe if you want, consider switching it out to a more drought tolerant bedding plant. There are tons of them. Feel free to come in and ask us for suggestions, because we have plenty of suggestions for low water bedding plants that are going to give you color either seasonally or year round. And so that's kind of it. I just thought for a little bit of fun. Wait, do we have questions about this? Any questions? Otherwise, I'm going to just show you some really pretty flowers right now. Okay, so as a reward for maybe sitting with me, I don't know, maybe if there's anybody left out there. Right now we're going into a beautiful season. We've gone through a lot of colorful, things these past few months, but right now we're going into the yellow and orange season, which I really love, because here at Rogers Gardens, we're ramping up for Halloween, which is going to be starting in about a month. We're so excited. And so going towards yellow and oranges and beautiful browns is just, part of the whole package here. So I have these beautiful Rudbeckias. These have just come in and they're starting to come in the 4 inches, but gosh, aren't they gorgeous? They are just the most fall-like thing. I mean, that and a pumpkin latte would be perfect for this morning. They come in so many beautiful colors. They come in different sizes. Obviously the 1 gallon, the big cachet pots, and we have them in little 4-inch containers. These are great perennials. So you plant them, they're going to bloom all through the fall, and then they're going to kind of die back, leaving a little bit of green, come right back out again next year. So it's good for your garden, it's good for your wallet, and look at this color. I just love having these seasonal changes. It's so nice. And the one other plant I want to show is kind of like my personal favorite in terms of a drought-tolerant, beautiful plant that gives you a ton of color, which is this geranium Roseanne. You plant these and they spread like crazy. They'll die back a little bit in the winter if it's, kind of cool in your garden. If it's not that cool, they won't even die back that much. But these bloom and bloom and bloom and bloom and bloom. They make the bees happy. They just make a beautiful carpet that can almost look like a pool of water in your garden. So, and really they're almost like a weed. You can, once they get established, you can pretty much ignore them. So, look at how beautiful they look with those. So that's about it for me today. I know it wasn't the most dynamic and exciting talk, but I hope some of you learned, if only to just, when you see me, say water deeply less often, because that's all we want you to know right now about all these water issues. So join Sarah this Thursday. She's going to be talking about a plant, as she does. And if you have any other questions, you can put them below. You can go to Facebook, Instagram. We have our YouTube channel where you can go back and see all of our videos. If you missed anything today, you'll be able to watch it again. Oh boy. And go to rogersgardens.com for all your shopping needs. And I think that's about it. So I'm going to say goodbye for now, and I'll see you in a week or two.